Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is SlammerIV. Today I am very pleased to bring you a matchup between myself in the top left and Visixfan in the bottom left hand side of the map. And this is going to be on Jade Wadi. This is going to be the first video of a two-part Mech versus Beast series. So in these videos, I'm going to be really focusing heavily on mech play that I'm going to be going for, and try to talk through some of the things that I'm doing and the reason I'm doing them. So to open up, we go for a 1 workshop expand. This goes house at, I think, 8 supply, then workshop, and you get a single Gatling to defend, and then you go for your 3rd castle. Briefly, we're seeing Visixfan open 1 den expand, pretty standard. Now this worker, you can see him running around. I'm looking for proxies, just to see if he's going for something like a 2 workshop proxy. I've seen barracks proxied and going for raiders. This is pretty cheap if you scout after you complete the workshop. There's a certain delay between when you can build your 3rd castle, so this doesn't really waste too much gold to do, and I think it's pretty solid to, in general, at least maybe not every game, but in a lot of games, to scout there. So you can see I'm getting a little bit greedy with my catapult, and I'm gonna run into a little bit of a problem with his wolves up here. Fortunately, I'm able to slurp through, and the 2nd catapult here should save me from a very embarrassing start to the game where I lose a catapult or a cannon. So you can see what I'm doing here is just getting a couple Gatling guns out to defend, and nice micro kind of on both sides. Visix doesn't lose anything, and neither do I. So both of us are going to end up in a very similar position, exactly 14 workers to 14, both players with 2nd base out, and really this is extremely even when it comes to Mech versus Beast. So now you can see the first tech choice coming out at about 350 in the game. Basically, the first time you start getting some spare gold between building a couple Gatlings and your workers, you're going to want to throw down a mill. This is a stylistic thing in some ways. I think against Beast, even against Rax, I think getting a single mill after workshop is really strong, because gyros, if I could talk a little bit about why gyros are strong as this game progresses here. Gyros are actually similar in stats to a Gatling gun when it comes to straight up fighting. So you can actually use them as just straight up combat units. That's one of the reasons they're so good. But of course, they're also flying and very fast, so they have a lot of utility as pretty tanky, strong units, relatively speaking, but also very fast flying, and they force certain responses. They force your opponent to deal with air. So in general, I think in Mech, it's very strong to go this 1-1 build to get the workshop, mill, and in this game I'm going for a pretty strong force of Gats, and I'm going to try to go for a bit of a push and a bit of a map control. I mean, having 6 Gats is pretty scary for a Beast player who's just on Wolf. So you're going to see that he's getting triple den out, and he's really building a lot of units here because he's not really comfortable to expand quite yet, because if he expands, then he's going to run into this kind of gnarly 2-base push that I'm going for. So this is a really important thing for Mech. This push is incredibly strong and tough to deal with for your average Beast player, and even against Rax, that's pretty strong. It's a 1-1 push. I've got workers, I've got a bunch of Gatlings, and I've brought 4 workers. Now the workers are obviously for repair, and you're going to see that this push is extremely challenging for Beast to deal with, and the Beast player really has to respect it. He can't expand or be greedy. And this is important because as Mech, the last thing you want to face is a greedy opponent who's taking a lot of bases and just is going to overwhelm you. Because as Mech, it's difficult to match that expansion and that greed in the same manner, because you don't have the units and you have a lot of pretty expensive tech that you want to get out. Now, another important thing to note about gyros is they are great at tanking snakes. Snakes are actually really bad against gyros. Because snakes have the minus versus flying, you're going to see that they don't do very well. Now here I make a pretty huge error, and this attack really should almost kill Visix because of the units I have, but I make a humongous mistake with my positioning. I run up against the wall. You can see I've got workers that aren't even repairing my gyros, or my Gatling guns. The snakes are actually dealing with my gyros semi-efficiently, and I just get trapped and killed, and this is just a really poor engagement. What I should have done is just stayed around here, shot at this house, and really just sharked. Instead I get greedy, I go in, and then he traps me really well, and basically it just ends up being a really poor trade. And from this position in the game, Beast is probably really happy. Like, Visix didn't cut any corners, he got a lot of units here to counter this specific play, and he got a really nice round. And now, as Mech, I'm very, very uncomfortable, because it's going to be challenging to really defend my main base if he shoves really strongly. I've only got a handful of gyros and cannons. Kind of fortunately for me, he doesn't shove hard for my third base, which allows me to kind of catch up macro-wise. But even if you look at the worker count, it's 22 to 28. And of course, I lost 4 workers just by running them across the map, and I also cut a couple workers to really get out this strong push. So the push itself is pretty strong, and I think it's something I encourage people to go for, but obviously don't control it like that. And it's going to kind of showcase, I think, how to play when you're a little bit behind, because there's no question I'm significantly behind in this game. I'm behind by quite a few workers. I'm even going to lose 2 to 3 workers here. I mean, I lost 3 workers just by being out of position. So again, very, very sloppy and poor play so far from me here. And really excellent responses from Visix. I mean, as a Beast player, if you watch this game, this first couple 50 minutes is an excellent tutorial for you as a Beast player to kind of deal with that push and also deal damage on the other side of the map. Honestly, I feel like he could have shoved with all the snakes as well and done a lot of damage. Like, I mean, these snakes were just at home defending for some reason, but he would have made it really, really uncomfortable, if not game losing, for me to actually defend this position if that number of snakes was shoving down my throat. But he's very comfortable to take it into the late game, and this is not a wrong choice for him. He's at 31 workers. He knows that my third base is not very saturated. He knows he has, he's perfectly safe from any pushes, and now he can easily take a 4th. In fact, he can take a 5th base pretty much for free. He can start throwing down upgrades and dragons and get basically all the tech he needs. And certainly, this is a very, very comfortable position for Beast to be in. So what am I going to do as Mech to try to come back? You can see I've thrown down a couple more workshops, and I'm transitioning to catapults. Catapults are a response to snakes. Clearly, if he shoves with a large amount of snakes, that they're going to slaughter my gatlings and even deal with my gyros. So having a couple catapults adds anti-snake and is also very strong generally in fights. They do a ton of damage. They 2 to 3 shot Beast units. And they're just really good units in general. Notice I'm also getting more my forges. Getting 2 forges in pretty much every matchup is pretty standard and solid. At this timing in the game, really you need those upgrades to not fall behind, and if you're a little bit behind, then rushing them can sometimes be strong, because if your opponent doesn't respect them, doesn't respect your upgrades, then you can actually get yourself an advantage, kind of a tech advantage, just by getting those out quicker, especially if you're in lower levels of play and weaker players, you know, clearly with weaker macro, will struggle even if they have an advantage to actually close a game out. And one way you can really come back on them is by getting upgrades and outplaying them using stronger units. And of course, as pretty much any race, but as Mech especially, you want to get those upgrades because your units will get so much stronger, especially if you get some attack and armor. I actually have been going for more armor in as I get more experience with Beast versus Mech. But as for this game, I'm going to go for the attack just so my units will slaughter his snakes much faster. If you get a couple plus attacks, you're actually going to be like 2-shotting snakes with your catapults and stuff, which is just really strong and nice to do. Now, throughout this game, you'll see a lot of focus on repairing. One of the strengths of Mech, and one of the reasons Mech is so good, is because it has the repair ability. Workers can repair Mech units, and they can stack repair. That is part of the logic behind that push I was doing, is those 4 workers can stack repair, and it's very challenging. Unless the Beast player gets that excellent surround like we saw in this game, it's very challenging to actually deal with that mass repair. Now, I have 9 gyros, and that's a pretty good count. Now, remember, again, gyros are tanky. They're 180 HP, which if you compare to gatlings, they're actually more HP. They don't have any armor, but they're just really strong units. They've got a lot of damage, 12 damage plus 1. They do 30 damage per shot. They don't fire super quick, but they're just really excellent units all around. And here you can see I'm going to be able to pick off an animal testing lab for free. Now, if you click on his upgrades, you can see he's at 0-0. He hasn't even started any of his upgrades yet. So the fact that I can get out with all of my gyros and snipe his upgrades means I know for a fact I'm going to have a pretty significant... Actually, I'm going to have a 3 upgrade lead pretty soon here. Now, I might lose 1 or 2 gyros. Let's see here. I think he picks off maybe 1 gyro here. Nice micro from Visix. He's kiting well with his dragons. He does get 1. Oh, does he get 2? Let's see, 2 gyros. He does get 2 gyros, but that's still a really decent trade, and it's a trade that I would make any time of the week. 2 gyros for delaying his upgrades is really effective. Now he is responding here and getting 3 animal testing labs, so he'll be able to catch up in about like 3 minutes from now. He'll be basically equal on upgrades, but for the next like that period of time, I will be very comfortable. Now I want to talk about my SimCity a little bit. The way I've decided to play this game is the left side of the map initially, and as you get towards mid to late game Mech versus any faction, it really comes down to a lot of positioning and SimCity and unit composition. So I'm adding in my advanced workshop. This is for dealing with dragons. Gyros by themselves are decent at fighting dragons, but in general, not the best. And of course, ballistae are the hard counter. They are the units you want to have to kill off these flying nemesises of all your units. So I'm going to have a single well-microed ballistae can really kill a lot of units. And here, my mech forces, again, I'm mixing in workers to repair. I'm throwing down caltrops, so it's hard for the snakes and the wolves to engage. And I have the knowledge that I have +2/+1 against 0/0. So I'm really kind of ready to take these fights. In fact, I'm being pretty aggressive with my gyros because I know my units have the advantage. Like snakes, for example, will do almost nothing to these +1 armored gyrocraft because snakes are already doing -2.5 versus flying, doing only 7 damage. So every single shot is -1 from the armor as well. They're just tickling the gyros at this point. So I'm really ready to take fights as soon as I see his army. I want to try to trade out because I know his economy behind is really good, right? Because I know from that poor attack that he has the economy advantage, and it's up to me to like make things happen with my army at the moment. So I'm really happy to be taking this fight. I hit my AoEs with the ballistae right now. He kind of jumps on top of me, so I pull back behind my caltrops. You can see a lot of units on the left being kind of trapped by the caltrops, and now my ballistaes are just throwing out huge amounts of damage on his cannons. And on the inside, it's hard to see here, but you have a lot of workers that are actually working and repairing. So even though this looks really scary as a jump on, as the smoke kind of clears in this battle, you can see not a lot of mech units actually died. But a lot of his units died. So that was an extremely effective trade as mech. I mean, basically we wiped an entire army and did lose quite a few. I mean, we're down to 4 gyros, for example. But in general, like that was an extremely cost-efficient trade. So now it's going to be about position. I know he probably has this base, for example, and I know he's probably getting this base. So my thought process at the moment is send gyros to the right side of the map to try to deal with this, while the main force pushes here to take this base. So this is going to be a twofold push. Significantly, we're going to try to kill off his expansions on this side, but while we do that, we're also going to be securing our own 5th base. So you always need to be thinking about when your next base is coming, because already my main is mining out, my natural has only 1700 gold, my 3rd will mine out eventually. So I'd be left on basically 1 to 2 mining bases, so I need to secure a 5th base in order for this game to continue, and in order to afford all the upgrades and units that I need to win. And mech needs a lot of stuff. You need a lot of towers and stuff to really win as a mech. So I am trying to take position across the map and shove off the back of the fact that, again, I know I'm still at a decent place upgrades-wise. I know he can't have traded that well, and I want to do damage across the map. So I've got 3 ballistaes, I've got workers, I've got cannons, and this is actually a bit of a mistake by me. I pick up all the ballistaes here, and I don't get them down until way later in this fight, and they actually are on the wrong side. So he actually takes a really excellent trade here, but my ballistaes are still able to do pretty good execution at the end of the day. And the workers underneath repairing, again, it's kind of hard to see, but the workers doing a lot of repair underneath are eventually able to kind of swing this battle in our favor. But unfortunately, we do lose all the ballistaes, so that means that this force is going to have a lot of trouble against the dragons. So here you see a straight up dragon versus gyro fight. The better upgrades for the gyros make it so it's possible for them to trade slightly, but eventually this whole army is going to get cleaned up by the superior dragon count. So another tough loss for Mech here. And the only good thing to come out of this is we are able to cancel another upgrade because my +3 catapults just do so much damage. And I think I just try to focus this down. I'm not sure if we kill it, but every time the catapult's fired, you know, they're doing so much damage. And I think I still have workers underneath repairing, so allows us to almost kill that, but not quite. Fortunately, I missed the opportunity to snipe this left base. That was a bit of a miscalculation on our part. But meanwhile, these forces are pushing in, and yeah, the game is very heavily in favor of Visixfan at this point. He's got +3 upgrades. He's got all the money he needs in the world. It's really a matter of now going and killing me at this point, and my only hope at this point is to try to defend. I know I have a 5th base, so that 5th base is basically a lifeline into the game. As long as this is alive, I can still make plays. And here I'm trying to desperately try to counterattack with gyros, but even that gets shut down. Now, the thing about having this much supply in dragons, he has 17 dragons. I have 4 ballistae, and ballistaes are such a hard counter, especially with superior upgrades, that it's possible that my ballistaes can actually hard counter these dragons. I don't have anything inside there. Now, these gyros obviously have to run away, can't take fights, but I have 3 ballistae here, and now I'm just going to start hitting some major AoEs. You can see all these dragons get totally wrecked by the AoE hits. And my gyros just continue to snipe away. Notice I'm continuing to keep upgrades going. I know that I don't have much money, I don't have many units, but I have to keep those upgrades going. Otherwise, we're really in deep trouble. And he's going to come in and kill a lot of workers, but my gyros and ballistae continue to snipe away and continue to try to keep us alive in this game. Meanwhile, Visix is going to take his far right base. He's going to continue to get all the gold in the world. He has basically everything he needs in his life, except the GG. That's really the only thing that he needs from this game at the moment. You can see that I'm really worried about this base. I've thrown down 3 towers because I know the dragons can come and do damage. He's sending 4 dragons, which is not going to be enough to deal with this many towers. Now he does get on top of one of our ballistae, and that's a bit unfortunate. But fortunately, we are able to at least trade out some HP, which hopefully will come back and be useful later in the game. Now again, we have a bit of an awkward fight where his dragons are across the map, and my ballistae are kind of taking an awkward trade in the middle of the map against wolves and stuff. But I really want to try to kill this base, and I need to secure my own base here. Meanwhile, the dragons are shooting at an advanced workshop. They're going to kill it, but in the vast scheme of things, I'm pretty okay with them killing that and not killing my workers and stuff. So I'm going to kill this base, but he's going to do a lot of damage. You can see he's just butchering through these towers. Plus 4 dragons kill towers so quickly that even 3 towers is only a stopgap measure, really. And I have to walk my catapults back. I believe I'm up to +4, +3, so my upgrades are really good at this point, only facing +5. So I've got 7 upgrades versus his 5. And I'm already just frankly trying to take control of this far right base. Now, a little bit of hugs. No, the hug of life does not come through. Again, a misplay on my part, and these dragons, look at this gold, it's 3k. This is, I think, a good illustration of solid beast play from Visixfan. He's just using his gold advantage and just trading units at this point. He needs to keep producing. He's producing out of 3 layers. I would like to see a couple more den. He only has, I think, 6 den here, and he's not even producing out of all of them. So a bit of a misplay on that part. I mean, he should be throwing down like 4 to 5 to 6 more dens here, just so he can flood his wolves and snakes whenever he wants to. And I'm finally able to secure this left side of the base, and I'm going to kill his units on this side. So a small moral victory coming out from my mech units over here. And oh my goodness, are we running into some sort of lag? Oh, that was weird. Feels like it was lagging for a second. Not sure why. But anyway, we are able, and of course my catapults can butcher towers in literal seconds. I'm going to hit a Q shot there, but nice micro from Visix, keeping on top of things. But these dragons are not going to have any hope at fighting these ballistae. These ballistae are going to butcher them in seconds. Meanwhile, there's not quite enough wolves. So I think you're going to see the problem that Visix is running into is he doesn't really have the wolf production that he needs. And if he's relying on his dragons by themselves, then the AoE from these ballistae is really just too much and is doing too much cutting away at them. I mean, you can see these well-upgraded ballistae are just sniping down dragons at an unbelievably quick rate. Unfortunately, the worker have died, so eventually these ballistae will get cleaned up, and this is a decent-ish trade for Visix. But the other thing I'd love to see is a couple more upgrades. I mean, obviously he can afford it. He should have +5 armor at this point. Having 3.5k gold is is really going to be problematic for him, and might come back to haunt him seriously in this game if it continues at this rate. Because these dragons are not free, and he's losing a lot of them very inefficiently, to be honest. Yeah, you can see that the ballast forces that I have here are significantly doing good damage. This is all going to die, but he's taking the bases on the far right, so it's kind of a bit of a map trade. I'm trying to just secure position on this left side with my forces, and obviously it's hard for him to kill me when I have all my units on this side, whereas he is going to be taking all the gold on the right side, and he still has really nice economy. I'm trying to use my Gatlings to hopefully push him back a little bit, and now that I have, like, so here's the significant thing to understand in this game is once you get a certain amount of ballast state, these dragons really can't engage. They get killed way too quickly, especially with the plus attack and no armor. These dragons die unbelievably fast, and a little bit of micro from the dropships to really enable the ballast state to just slaughter them. So at this point in the game, I need to be focusing on getting more cannons and more catapults out, because what's really going to kill me is not the dragons, but the wolves. So you can see that I'm back on my bases. I'm trying to just get out as many gyros, because gyros do direct damage, obviously, and also can help against dragons, but also more catapults and cannons. Of course, we can see Physics is pumping out from 4 layers, so he's definitely really heavily committed to the dragon play, which I think is actually helping me in this game, because I think I would probably die if he was playing way more Snake Wolf, because the Snake Wolf is pretty scary in this situation, whereas dragons, it's kind of like, I know I can kill them if I can just get enough ballast out. And you can even see in these small engagements that the ballast are just so efficient, hitting their AoEs and killing dragons like almost every time they fire, they're doing damage. And I've finally gotten a pretty strong ground force. I'm going to try to take control of this right side. You can see there's this real seesaw action that goes in Beast versus Mech, where you try to match your composition to what your opponent's doing, and it's a delicate balancing act. As Mech, you can see Physics has finally decided to spend some of that money by just throwing down a ton of dens, but it's going to be a little bit too late, because I'm going to get some juicy hits with cannons and catapults. It's a delicate balancing act, because of the quick nature of training dragons and beasts and wolves. It's really easy for the beast player to switch between compositions, but it's pretty challenging as the Mech player to really deal with all of that. So you can see that this game is pretty closely contested, but Visix is still very much in control if he just kind of stays calm, spends his money. You can see he's kind of burnt through that bank, and I think the constant loss of dragons is what really cost him a lot of that. And now my ballast forces are kind of getting in, and I've cut ballast production because I feel like I have enough to deal with his dragons. I'm at 4, and that's kind of a sweet spot. 4 to 6 is probably... Even 6 might be too much. It's kind of a sweet spot of the amount of ballast you need to deal with a pretty large dragon force. And from that, I just want to get more gyro, catapult, and just general mech forces. I'm also trying to keep up my worker production. You see I'm at 44 workers. Nice play from Visix. He's going to get down here and clean out all my bases on the left side of the map. Because my army is on the right, I basically have to give up that side. I'm at a point in the game where I don't think I have the units to really defend that. I'm going to try to send Ballast back to deal with the dragons, and then also rally my gyros and stuff to deal with the wolves. Meanwhile, my main forces of catapults and cannons are just going to totally slaughter these buildings. Obviously, Mech, the one thing Mech is incredibly good at is killing buildings. So our +4 attack units are going to utterly annihilate his structures here and clean out this right side of the base. So my thinking now is, okay, he's got the left side, great. Now what I should do is trade on the right side. And this is a bit of a mistake by me. I go in blind with just my catapults, and unsupported without workers or any micro potential, I actually lose 3 ballistae and 2 dropships for free. And that's a pretty significant loss at this stage in the game when I'm really struggling for units, and I need to replace those ballistae now. And of course, these bases are not going to be saved in any sense of the word. So really, it's up to my top right base and my bottom left base that are still mining. Now, Visixfan has actually burnt through his bank, and he's only mining off of 1 base because I've killed everything else. So his mining is not that healthy either in this point, and he still has that pretty significant upgrade disadvantage, and I'm actually getting +5 out. So I'm going for that +5, and now my idea is just to secure this base here, and eventually defend. I don't really care about losing everything here. This is obviously going to all die, and Visix will secure this bottom left. But if I get these 2 mines, and this mine is basically completely fresh, if I can secure these 3 after mining a lot from these left bases, then that's kind of like a win condition where I think I can probably win the game from that position. I'm also going to catch a ton of workers in my caltrops, and if you look at the worker counts, it's only 16 to 23 here, and a lot of these workers are going to go down as well. So Visix is down to really a small worker count. However, I'm also down significantly, and a really unfortunate play and pick off here. I lose a catapult, looks like 2 catapult or ballistae, to a massive wolf surround, and these wolves are going to be a major problem. I'm going to try to pull my gyros to deal with them, but you can see that the mass wolf play from Visix is pretty strong and is really causing me major issues at this point. Now, if we look at the unit tap, it is 138 supply to 90, so a nice advantage still for Visix. He's been ahead this whole game in supply, and this is no difference. Now, I'm going to catch a couple wolves with my gyros, which is a nice play, and I finally completed that +5. So I've got, again, a really huge worker advantage for these units, and these wolves are really, they don't have enough time to cut through the units. They're dying so quickly to these upgraded cannons and gyros. And the dragons come to this fight a little bit late. The wolves are all dead, and now it's really up to the dragons to focus down the catapults. And again, Visix jumped right on top for the fight. It's 8 gyros and 2 ballista against 17 dragons. I decided to run away with my units because I need workers. I know I need workers to take this fight. A couple ballistaes are going to be focused down. There's only 2 ballistae left. Looks like I'm bringing more dropships into the fight, so I have some micro potential. But now the dragons are forced to run away. He has to run away because some of them have been significantly damaged by the ballistae forces. And these +30 attack, it's 55 +30. These ballistaes do so much damage. They do AoE, remember, on each shot. So Visix has secured the bottom left. He has mined out pretty much every other base except for the bottom left. He's spent so much money. He's actually out. He's dropped below 100 supply, but I'm only at 76. So now the dragons are going to put damage across the map. There's nothing I can really do about that at this point in the game. I'm just trying to save up I really should probably put a couple more workers on there, but I'm trying to save up just to secure this base, because I know if I can defend these 2, then I have a really good shot at winning this game. Meanwhile, Visix is, oh my goodness, I totally didn't realize this bottom left had already mined out. So Visix is down to long distance mining. He has absolutely no money left in the game. It's 96 to 76 supply. Now, I'm going to get on top of a couple of these wolves. He's really down to just his dragons at this point, which is a nice position for me to be, because that means I can just drop ballistae out and repair it with my workers, and it's really tough for him to actually take these straight-up heads-up fights. The ballistaes are doing so much execution. They have superior upgrades, +5, +3, and now there's only 8 dragons left. Unbelievably, after a crazy long mech game, we are able to beat out against Visix. Just with some cool collected mech play, bit of a slugfest game, multiple bases getting mined out, pretty much the longest possible game you could have in Littlewargame, utterly brutal, but overall I think in the end our upgrade advantage and some compositional question marks and macro question marks from Visix allowed us to crawl back into the game, and they were able to just throw punches and expand just enough, do just enough to win this matchup. When we look at the mine goal at the end of the game, we can see that Visix was up by about 4k, which is not crazy for a mech versus beast or Rax game. But yeah, very crazy. If you look at the units killed and units lost, this was a long slugfest of a game. Both players really were stretched to our limits in this match, and it was definitely exhausting at the end of it. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Hopefully taught you a little bit. Stay tuned. There's going to be another mech versus beast game coming to show you kind of another similar ideas, but some more mech focused gameplay. So if you guys enjoyed that, there's gonna be more coming. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought about these videos. Tell me about things that you've been doing. Maybe if you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see, feel free to leave that in the comment sections down below. Yeah, and with that, I will catch you guys later.